Hey everybody, what's up? It's Hutch here, and this is your Pre-Algebra 7 midterm study guide. This first part is a no calculator part, so do not get tempted to grab that calculator. Let's go ahead and take a look at how you should solve these without a calculator. First off, the directions. We're evaluating. We say evaluate because there's no equal sign, but it essentially means solve it. Simplify all fractions and leave as improper, so don't change to mixed numbers, okay, which is a good thing. Okay, so here is your answer key. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and do the first one. Remember, we need common denominators to add fractions. Okay, so we can sort of think through counting by nines. We have 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81. So none of those are really working. So let's just go ahead and use each other's denominators to make common denominators. So I can say times 10 over 10, and we can say times 9 over 9. I'm going to go ahead and do a complete rewrite of these. So 7 times 9, we have 63, and 9 times 10 is 90, plus 8 times 10 is 80, and we have 90. So there's our addition. We have common denominators, and so now we can go ahead and add those up. So what is 80 plus 63? So we have 80 plus 63. You might want to do something like this on the side so you don't make any mistakes. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have 143, okay, 143 90ths. Okay, all right, and then it says simplify all fractions. So you start looking at things like, well, 143, that doesn't end in 0 or 5, things like that. And so more than likely, this, unless you want to look at your divisibility rules on the wall, this one is completely simplified. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. Okay, and actually I'm going to go ahead and highlight my answer. Okay, all right, number 2, we're subtracting fractions. We can't subtract without common denominators. So again, we're going to do the same thing and multiply by 10 over 10 and multiply by 9 over 9 to make common denominators. So let's go ahead and do a rewrite. 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 10 is 90. And then we have minus, and we have 80, and we have 90ths, okay? All right, so obviously something else you could think about is you could KFC that if you want, okay, to think about it that way. Either way, we have a negative number and a positive, so we think through our song, right? Different sign subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. So we have 80 minus 63. Okay, and did we do this over here already? Well, not quite, right? We did 80 plus 63. So different sign subtract. Okay, we're going to do some regrouping here. So this is a 7, this is a 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, and a 1. And so we have a 17, but keep the sign of the bigger digit. So we end up with negative 17 over 90, and that is simplified, and so we are done. I'm going to go ahead and highlight my answer. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next one. Multiplication of fractions. Notice this is a decimal form. I'm going to change it to fraction form because multiplying by fractions is really nice and easy. So what is 7.7? Well, it's 7/10, right? So negative 7/10 times 8/9. Okay. All right. Now, before I would do anything with multiplication, we can cross simplify. So let's go ahead and do that. We can cross out the 10 and the 8, divide both by 2, and we end up with 10 divided by 2 is 5, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay. Now we can multiply straight across. Okay. We don't need common denominators, and we end up with 4 times 7 is a negative 28 over 5 times 9 is 45. And there you go. And because we cross-simplified already, we are completely simplified and done. Okay. All right, let's slide over to number 4. We don't divide by fractions, right? What do? We multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to go ahead and rewrite it. We have negative 7/10 times, and I'm going to keep the negative on the top, negative 9/8. Okay, now let's look and see if we can cross-simplify anything. We can't, which means when we get our answer, it's going to be done. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and multiply straight across. 7 times 9 is 63. A negative times a negative is a positive. And 10 times 8 is 80. And you are done. So let's highlight the answer. Okay, all right. Let's head down to number 5. So now we're on evaluating. The numeric expressions show all work. So evaluating, again, means solve, but there's no equal sign, so we say evaluating. Okay? All right, so this we need to do our order of operations. Okay? And so when we're doing our order of operations, remember we're doing our germ DOS. Okay, so there's no grouping. We do have exponents though. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the exponents here. Okay, and so we have 10 to the second power. Okay, and so we have to go ahead and solve that first. Okay, so 10 times 10 is 100. Okay, and so let's go ahead and write that down below, and then bring everything else down. So now remember when we're doing this, this wasn't in parentheses, okay? It's just the 10, and so this is just 10 to the second. And so the minus still gets just brought down, okay? So that's what we have next. Let's go ahead and continue. Our exponents are done, so now we're on any roots or anything like that. We don't have that, so now we're on multiplication. And so I do see some multiplication. So I have this right here, and I'm going to underline it. So 2 times negative 7 is negative 14 minus 100. And you can see how you have to really slow yourself down with all this. Okay, and everything's getting brought down. All right, any more multiplication? Nope, so we're on to division. Okay, we do any multiplication, division, whichever comes first from left to right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this right here. And you can look at it as negative 100 or 100. Okay, I'm going to look at it as 100 divided by 10. When we do 100 divided by 10, swoop one spot to the left. Okay, and so 100 divided by 10 is 10. And so we can just write the 10 and bring everything else down. So negative 14 minus 10 minus 4. All right, what's next according to order of operations? Any addition, subtraction, whichever comes first from left to right, okay? And if you want, you could KFC all this, okay, to just have addition, okay? And so now we have a negative 14 plus a negative 10. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So 14, 24. So we have negative 24 plus a negative 4. Let's go ahead and finish this out. And we have a negative 28 to finish, okay? And so this is our final answer, okay? All right, so lots of stuff there, and you really, really have to slow down, okay? All right, let's do this next one, okay? Oh, I see this multiplication here, and so we should remember what to do. Once we take care of this, then we can multiply by the 1/2, so just be aware of that. Remember when we have variables in here, we would distribute, but you don't have variables in there. You just have numbers, which you can actually evaluate, okay? So we don't have to worry about that. All right, I would recommend writing your germ DOS again. So you walk through that process. Is there any grouping? Yes, there is, okay? So here's our grouping. Let's take care of that first. So we still have 0.5 times, or 1/2 times 12 minus 10 is 2, minus 3, times a negative 8. And that's just in parentheses for the purpose of organization. All right, let's go ahead and see if there's any exponents or roots, and there are not. So let's go on to multiplication, division, whichever comes first from left to right. So here's some multiplication. So what is half of 2? Well, half of 2 is 1. Minus 3 times negative 8. Okay. All right, any other multiplication, division? Yep, right here. So you can see how slow you have to go and really talk yourself through this. 3 times 8 is a negative 24. Okay, or if you looked at it as a negative 3, it would be a positive 24. Okay, either way, it's going to be the same thing here. Okay, I'm just looking at the 3 times negative 8, and so you can see that's a negative 24, and I still have 1 minus a negative 24. Okay, which is going to KFC to 1 plus 24. If you look at it the other way, okay, and you look at it as negative 3 times negative 8, okay, this whole thing, you can see negative 3 times negative 8 would be a positive 24, and you'd end up with the same thing. Okay, so however you want to think through that. And then our final step is the 1 plus 24, and we end up with a 25. Okay, so go ahead and highlight that. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 7. We have lots of grouping here. Again, let's start off by writing the order of operations, which is germ DOS. Okay, so is there any grouping to take care of? Absolutely. We have this grouping and this grouping that you can go ahead and take care of because they're separate. Okay, so let's go ahead and rewrite everything down below. So we have 5, and it's times this quantity of 12 plus 5 is 17. Okay, and then we have minus 3 times the quantity of 19 minus 14. So we have 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So that's 5. And then we have this grouping here. Okay, so really be careful with that grouping. You have these brackets and parentheses and things like that. Okay, also be aware of this 12 plus 15 could be in parentheses, but that doesn't mean 17 times negative 3. It just means that quantity is minus 3. Okay, so just be careful about that kind of thing. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and continue. Take care of any exponents or roots. We don't have that. Do we have any multiplication or division? Yes, we do. So we have this right here. Okay, and 3 times 5 is 15. Notice I didn't use the negative, so it's just going to stay there. Okay, and so here's what we have now. Okay, and this is just around brackets. Okay, and we have a 5 on the outside. So what do we do now? Okay, technically, we still have some grouping to take care of now that the inside things are done. So we're going to take care of the 17 minus 15 first. Okay, and 17 minus 15 is 2. And we still have this bracket and the 5 on the outside. And so 5 times 2 is 10. And you're all done. Okay, so you can see a lot of steps with this, but you can do it if you take your time. Take care of all the inner things first with order of operations and then move to the outer. Okay, so there's your evaluating expressions. All right, the last part with no calculator is just filling out this table. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at these pieces here. So 3/4 you have to know is 0.75, okay? And as a percent, swoop, swoop is 75%, okay? All right, our 0.05, okay? We can go swoop, swoop, and this is 5%. And you have a couple options here, okay? So I could just read this, okay? And if I read this, okay, it says 5, and where is it? It's in the hundredths place, okay? So that's 5 hundredths. The other option, okay, is if you know what 5% is, we know 5% is 5 out of 100, okay? So either way, if you have the percent, it's really nice to be able to just write it out of 100, okay? All right, 96% we know is 96 out of 100, okay? And then 96 out of 100, if you read that, it's 96 hundredths, okay? Or you could just take your decimal and swoop, 2 spots to the left, and you get 0.96. So you have multiple options to fill out the table, but there's your correct answers, okay? All right, let's go ahead and move on now to part 2, which is calculator allowed, okay? All right, for part 2, calculator allowed, we're starting off, and you can see with module 1, proportional relationships, and you can use any of your calculator tools at this point, okay? Directions say find the unit rate, show work, and answer the question with a sentence, okay? So here we go, unit rates. I'm thinking on the wall over there by the clock. It says to find unit rates, we just divide the numerator by the denominator. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. We have some highlighting going on. Maya drove 16 miles in 0.515 hours, okay, or 15 hundredths hours. So there's my base ratio. Make a proportion to determine how many miles Maya can drive in 1 hour. And that gives us the organization, miles per hour. So let's go ahead and set this up. So we have 16 miles per 0.15 hours. And we want to make a proportion, okay? And we're going to set it equal to 1 hour, okay? So how do we find a unit rate? Well, you could find the multipliers and all that, but we also know unit rates are just made by dividing the numerator divided by the denominator, okay? And so if we just do 16 divided by 0.15, it tells us how many miles per hour, okay? So let's go ahead and write this down. So it's 106.6 repeating miles per hour, okay? So let's go ahead and answer the question now, because it says answer in a sentence. How many miles Maya can drive in 1 hour? Maya can drive 106.6 repeating miles in 1 hour. Okay, so there you go with that one. All right, let's answer the following questions and show our work. Do the following ratios form a proportion? So 3/2 and 4/6. Okay, so let's go ahead and write them like a fraction. 3/2. And we're wondering, does it equal, means it's proportional, equal 4/6. And I've always said the easiest way is just to turn them into decimals, okay? You could cross multiply and see if they equal the same thing, but if they're proportional, it means that they equal the same, okay? So 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And let's see if they're equal. 4 divided by 6 is 0.6 repeating, okay? And so if I bring up Desmos, it's probably best to be using Desmos for this kind of stuff, okay? So let's see. 4 divided by 6, you can see this is 2/3, okay? Or 0.6 repeating. And so these are not a proportion. They would have to be equal to each other to be a proportion, okay? All right. So I'm going to put this line here saying not equal, okay? Okay, so not proportional. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. If 25 game tickets cost $12.50, what is the unit cost? Remember, unit cost is the cost per one item. So cost always goes on top. Okay, so this is always on top. So we say $12.50 per 25 tickets. And so the question is, how much is the unit cost per ticket? How do we find unit rates? We just divide the numerator divided by the denominator. So here we go. Let me hit clear all. We have 1250 divided by 25, and we have 0.5. What is that as money, though? So as money, it's 50 cents, or 0.50, okay? All right, so here is the unit cost, and we can just box that out or highlight that whole thing because it says 50 cents per ticket, okay? All right. Here we go. Number 12. If Evan makes $32.80 in 4 hours, so here's his base ratio, what would he make in 7 hours? So if we're making a prediction, you know what we need to make? A proportion. So here we go. I'm going to set up the money on top. It's very typical. $32.80 for 4 hours. Let's set up your proportion. So how much does he need to make in 7 hours? And we know to make sure the same units are in the same layer there. Let's go ahead and solve for x. Let's see if we can find the multiplier. Okay, so 7 divided by 4, and let's see if this works. It does, 1.75. So we can multiply by 1.75 over 1.75, and that should get us our answer then. So I'll take the 1.75 times 32.80. And there we go. We have an answer of he should make $57, and 0.4 is 40 cents. You need to make sure you have that or you would lose a point. Okay, let's answer the question. What would he make in 7 hours? He would make $57.40 in 7 hours. Okay, and so there we go. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this next section. This says complete the table and determine if the relationship is proportional by circling yes or no. If yes, then state the constant of proportionality and write an equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at, we have hours and songs, and we're calculating the unit rate. And remember, when we want to find the unit rate, we're going to go ahead and do our y divided by x, okay? And y divided by x is what's going to find our constant of proportionality and also help us determine if this table is proportional, okay? So let's go ahead, because we're wondering x times what, okay, equals 54. Okay, so we'll do 54 divided by 3, and we have a unit rate of 18 songs per 1 hour. Okay, if we do 99 divided by 5.5, we get 18 songs per hour. And if we do, it looks like things are proportional here, 126 divided by 7, we get the same thing of 18 songs. And so this is the unit rate, okay? It's over 1 per hour, okay? And if you remember way back when, we said one of the nice things is the unit rate will also tell you the COP, or constant of proportionality, okay? So this number is K, okay? Because if you remember here, here's our equation, y equals K times X. How do you find K? Well, if we divide both sides by X, that goes away, and you can see that you end up with y over x, which is just what we did, right? Y over x is what equals K, or the constant of proportionality. And what we mean by that, remember, is if you take any x and plug in a number here, okay, what would you multiply it by to equal y? Okay, and so K is that constant of proportionality, or sort of like the multiplier. Okay, all right, so we see that they all have a multiplier of 18, so yes, this table is proportional. What is the COP, or K? Well, the unit rate is also, the top of the unit rate is also the K, so K is 18, that's our multiplier. And how would we write it in the y equals K times X equation? We would just write y equals, and then you plug in K. So K is 18 times X. So anything you put in X, any amount of hours, it'll tell you how many songs that would equal. Okay, so anything I want to put in X, I multiply by 18, and it'll tell me how many songs would play in that time period. Okay, so there's that section there. Let's head down to number 14. It says state whether or not the relationship has a constant proportionality and explain your answer. Okay, so this one's a nice quick one. I can tell right away this is a yes. Why is it yes? Okay, and we say the graph goes through origin 0, 0 and is straight. So those are the two big things, is going through origin 0, 0 and is straight. And that's what makes it a proportional graph. Okay, and so that's all you need to do for that. All right, let's head to module 2, which is percents. It says solve the percent and interest problems. A pair of Nike shoes has an original price of $99. That's important to know. That's the original. It's now on sale for 30% off. Tell me what the sale price is and round to the nearest cent. Okay, so let's go ahead and think through this a little bit. Okay, we're 30% off. So you have to ask yourself the question, if we're finding the sale price, do you want to find what 30% is, or do you want to find out what the leftover is after we remove the 30%? So we've drawn this before, okay? Okay, and we talked about something like this, where you see the 30%, and you see the 70%, okay? So the original price was $99, okay? We want to take away the 30% and find the actual sale price now. So what percentage are we actually trying to find? We're trying to find 70%, okay? And so let's go ahead and set up our proportion. So we want to know what is 70%, okay, and that's always out of 100, okay, and it's going to tell us, okay, what the sale price is if we're finding 70% out of 100, okay. So the original total was 99, and we want to know what 70% of that is. So let's go ahead and solve for X. Okay, and so you can try to find the multiplier if you want, or you can cross multiply either way. Okay, and so let's go ahead and look at some of our options. So let's do 99 divided by 100. Okay, and if we do that, you have 0.99 as your multiplier. Okay, so you could do it that way, or you can just cross multiply. Okay, so if I do this way, I have 100x equals 70 times 99 is 6,930. And then we can go ahead and isolate your variable, divide both sides by 100. And we end up with x equals, swoop, swoop, $69.30, okay, as our sale price after removing 30% of that, okay. Another little tip for you that I didn't show you before is the Desmos is really nice for this. If you just want to know what 70% is, check this out. If you just type 70 and the word percent, it says 70% of. And if you push 99, look at that. 70% of 99 is $69.30. So there's a little tip and trick to you. If you want to use that method, you can definitely use that. Just make sure you maybe make a little note that you used the calculator for that. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and head on to the interest. Okay. So interest formula is I equals PRT. Okay. And so we need to remember what these things mean. Okay. So when we're doing this, okay, we have all these little little pieces. The principal was the OG, okay? The rate is actually the percentage rate, okay, as a decimal. And this was time, okay, but it's in years, okay? And then our interest is your actual amount earned or lost, okay, or earned, or another thing we can say is earned or owed, okay? So the money earned or money owed. So these are all the pieces, just to remind you, okay? It says Spencer put $1,100 into a savings account. So we know that we're going to be earning money because it's a savings account. It pays 3.5% simple interest on an annual basis. How much will he earn after 3 years? So I want to go through and label a little bit here. Okay, here's my OG. Okay, so this is my principal. Here is my percentage rate, but right away I want to swoop this, okay, and I have 0.035, okay, as a decimal, and then here's my T for time. So let's go ahead and set this up and find out how much interest, okay, and I know that I don't know interest because it says how much interest. So we're always going to start by writing I equals PRT and then go ahead and fill it out, okay? So I don't know the I do know my original principal, which is 1,100. My rate, I'm going to put in parentheses, is 0.035, and the time is 3 years. And now all I have to do is plug this into the calculator, and I will get an answer of how much interest we've made. Okay, so I have 1,100 times 0.035 times 3. And because of order operations, I can just type it all in there. How much interest? We can say $115.50 earned. Okay, so how much interest will he earn? Let's answer the question. He will earn $115.50 interest. Okay, and there we go. There's your answer. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at module 3 and 6. Okay, so these are simplifying each algebraic expression. So now we have variables, and so we know simplifying means distributing and combining like terms. So if you want to help yourself remember that, distribute is step 1. Step 2, combine like terms. Okay, so here we go. Okay, I'm going to show my distributing arcs here. Okay, 7 times 2 is 14, but it's a negative 14x. And then negative 7 times a positive 7 is negative 49. Okay, we need to go ahead now and combine any like terms. There's nothing to combine, and so we are all done. You have simplified because you've distributed and combined like terms. So this one is complete. There's nothing else you can do. Okay, there's no equal sign. We're not solving for x. All right, let's go ahead and continue and do the same thing. So step 1 is distribute. Okay, and so we have 18x plus 6 times 9 is 54 minus 7x plus 10. Let's go ahead and combine like terms. Okay, so find all the x club, include the positive or negative, and then find all the constant club. And now let's go ahead and combine. Okay, so we have an 18x and a negative 7x, so 18 minus 7, we don't want to make any mistakes here, is 11. So we have 11x, different sign, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number, and then 54 plus 10 is 64. And there you go. You have distributed and combined like terms. So you're all done. All right, let's go into evaluating. Okay, be aware that A equals 8, B equals -2. So you're going to substitute the letters. Okay, make sure if you're substituting, you use parentheses. So B is -2, so I'm going to put the -2 here in parentheses, then my squared, minus 0.5 times A is 8. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and go through this. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and use our order of operations, so our germ DOS. Okay, so first step is any grouping. We don't have any grouping. Okay, it's just organizational. We do have exponents or roots. So we're going to go ahead and take care of these exponents here. Remember, my tip to you is pull it out and write what you're doing. So -2 times -2. 2 times 2 is 4, but negative times negative is a positive 4. Okay, so we have 4, and then bring everything down. Okay, our next step is the multiplication. Okay, and I definitely go to your calculator. It's not 5 times 8 is 40. It's 0.5 times 8, okay, which is just 4. Bring everything down. 4 minus 4 is 0. And so this is our final answer. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and do number 20. Okay. So we're going to substitute everything first. Okay. We're not simplifying, we're substituting. So let's go ahead and B is -2 times the quantity of 20 plus A, and A is 8, okay? And all that is divided by A, which is 8, okay? So now follow your germ DOS. We're only doing SADMEP if you're solving for a variable, and we're not solving anything yet. All right, so let's go ahead. Do we have any grouping? Yes, we do, the 20 plus 8, okay? So we can just go ahead even and just write the 28 here, okay? That's fine. And so that's all done. And so now, do we have any exponents or roots? Nope. Do we have any multiplication or division? Yes, we do. Whichever comes first from left to right. And the top is going to be first. So -2 times 28. So 2 times 28, but it's going to be negative, is -56. Okay, so right now we have -56 over 8. Okay, and then let's finish this up. So 56 divided by 8 is 7, but it's negative. So we have -7 as our answer. Okay, so there you go. All right, let's head down to Module 7, Equations and Inequalities. All right, we need to solve and check each equation, okay? You must show all work, all your SADMERG work, and show you checked it by plugging in for X, okay? So show all SADMERG work. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. So now we're solving by X, so we're doing backwards order of operations or SADMERG, okay? All right, now, remember when we have a numerator, though, this is invisible parentheses, okay? So you can't do anything with that yet. Let's go ahead now that we are in equation world. Let's separate our workspace, okay? And step 1 is going to be to get rid of that divided by -8. So we're going to multiply by -8, multiply by -8, okay? This gets crossed out, and let's write what's remaining. So now our parentheses are gone, equals there, and we have 12 times 8. Negative times a negative is a positive, and so we have 96. Now we can go ahead and subtract 1 to both sides to start isolating the variable, and we end up with x equals 95. Okay, now you do have to check. Okay, and so that means plug 95 in for x here. Okay, and so let's go ahead and type what we actually have here. So we have 95 plus 1, okay, and I'm going to put that in parentheses, okay, and then the whole thing is divided by -8, okay, and so we have -12 equals -12, which is perfect. So the check would look like this. -12 equals -12. Okay, check. All right, let's go ahead to number 20. Okay, Separate your workspace. Okay, and let's go ahead and start isolating your variable. Okay, so if we're thinking opposite order of operations, SAD-MERG, okay, any addition, subtraction first. Okay, so I have a positive 12 here. So let's go ahead and subtract 12 to both sides. That goes away. Okay, 84 minus 12 is 72. Negative 12x. All right, now we can start to isolate the variable. So on to division and multiplication. So divide by both sides by negative 12 instead of multiplying by 12. Cross that out, and what do you get? X equals, what is 72 divided by 12? It is 6, but I have a positive divide by negative, so it's a negative 6 equals x. Okay, let's go ahead and do the check. So we're going to plug negative 6 in for x, and let's see if we get 84. Okay, so we have 12 minus 12 times negative 6, and we get 84 equals 84. So we're all set. Equals 84. Check. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and try these ones here. Okay. So we're doing opposite order of operations. So SAD-MERG. Okay. Do we have any addition, subtraction? Well, we do. We have a positive 7 over here. Okay. So let's separate your workspace. Okay. And we're going to subtract 7 from both sides first. Cross that out. Okay. And we have a negative x over 14, or a negative 1x if you want to make it a little bit more user-friendly here, equals negative 32 and a negative 7. So that's 32 plus 7 is a negative 39. Okay. All right. Now we can go ahead and get rid of the divided by 14. So we're on division and multiplication. So we'll multiply both sides by 14. This cancels out, and we're left with negative 1x equals 39 times 14, but it's negative, is negative 546. Okay, and so this is saying negative x equals negative 546. So that's the same thing as saying positive x equals positive 546. Or you can look at it as divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, and we still end up with x equals 546. So let's go ahead and check it out, and this has to equal negative 32. So we're going to plug in 546 for x. Okay, so let's go ahead and type it out here. So we have a positive 7 plus 546 divided by 14. Oops, it's not plus, it's subtract. Minus. And there we go, negative 32. So it checks out. Negative 32 equals negative 32. And if it doesn't, you try to figure out what you did wrong. So these are nice self-checkers. Okay. All right, here we go. Remember, in order to do our SAD-MERG, we're going to have to distribute first so that we can do our work. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll distribute. Okay, separate our workspace. So we have negative 2x, negative times a negative is a positive, plus 6 equals 11. Now we can start doing our SAD-MERG. Okay, any addition, subtraction? Yes, I can subtract 6 on both sides. That goes away. And we're left with negative 2x equals 11 minus 6. Okay, and I can do the mental math, but it's a test, so I'm being extra careful. Okay, all right, now let's go ahead and divide negative 2 on both sides. And we're left with x equals 5 halves. Okay, let's go ahead and see what 5 halves is. Okay, so it's 2.5, or negative 2.5 is 5 halves. Okay, so x equals negative 2.5. Let's go ahead and plug that in and see if it equals 11. Okay, so we have negative 2 times the quantity of negative 2.5 minus 3, close parentheses, and we get 11. So 11 equals 11. It checks out. Okay, so there we go. All right, use this scenario to answer the question. Notice it says write and solve an equation to find the cost of the registration fee. Okay, so here we go. The soccer tournament costs this much total. I know total goes on the other side of the equal sign typically. There's a one-time registration fee plus, writing my hints, $75 per each of the 15 players. So this is where you have to notice your hints. I know per or each means multiply. How much is the registration fee? So let's go ahead and set this up. I know with totals, $1,237.50. Totals pretty much always go on one side. Okay, and then let's figure out what the expression is on the left side. So there's a one-time registration fee. Let's call that X because I don't know what it is. Okay, or you could call it F or whatever. Plus $75 per person, which is 15 players. Okay, so there we go. There's my equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve for X. I'm going to separate my workspace just like normal. Okay, we can go ahead and take care of the multiplication here. Okay, and so let's go ahead and do our 75 times 15, and we get 1,125. Okay, so what do we have so far? We have X plus 1,125 equals 1,237.50. Okay, now we can go ahead and do our subtraction and subtract 1,125 from both sides. And it's going to tell us what X is. So this is all gone, and we have X equals, let's go ahead and do that math here. So we have 1,237.5 minus 1,125, and we get $112.5, which is 50 cents. Okay. All right. So what is the one-time registration fee? So answer the question. The registration fee is $112.50. Okay, so there we go. All right, on to inequality work. You must show all SADMERG work and show that you checked it by plugging in for X where necessary. So let's go ahead and see how it goes here. All right, so write the inequality that matches the graph. I'm probably going to change those directions. So when you look at your actual practice test, you'll see something a little different. Number 24, just write the inequality that matches. Okay, so remember, always start with X. And what direction is the line going? It's going to the right, which is greater than. Is the cement filled in? Nope. So it's just greater than, not equal to. And it's greater than 2. Okay, so there's the inequality that matches. Let's go ahead and write the inequality using P to represent the points in this situation. So the New England Patriots need to score at least 9 points to win the game. What does at least mean? Well, they want to be 9 or more. So greater than or equal to. Okay. And they were using P as points, so we're just going to write P. The points need to be greater than or equal to 9. Okay, so nice, simple inequality. All right, let's go ahead and check these out. You have to show all your SADMERG work, and you should check it by plugging in for the variable, okay? Whether it's X, A, B, whatever. Okay, so let's go ahead and separate your workspace. Okay, since we're solving for a variable, we're using SADMERG. Okay, so here we go. We can go ahead and do addition subtraction first. So add 9 to both sides. Okay, when we do that, what do we end up with? Okay, we end up with A is less than or equal to 10, and we're already done. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph that. Okay, so remember to do this, we're going to draw our line, do our 3 tick marks, tick, 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 boom. Write your target number, which is 10. Write one bigger, which is 11, one smaller, which is 9. Okay, let's look at the cement. Well, I see the cement, so we're going to fill this in with a different color, and then we always read from the variable. Okay, and when we read from a variable, it says A is less than or equal to 10, so less than means to the left. So there's my graph. Now I do want to check and make sure that something like this works. So I can plug anything in that is less than or equal to 10. So let's just pick something easy. Less than 10 is 0, right? So if I put a 0 here, 0 minus 9 is negative 9. And is negative 9 less than or equal to 1? Yeah, it is. Okay. So if I say negative 9 is less than or equal to 1, check. Yep, that works. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and look at number 27. Okay, so number 27, we need to go ahead and get rid of that divided by negative 8. So let's go ahead and multiply by negative 8 to both sides. Okay, we're going to separate the workspace, just like we always do for equations or inequalities. This gets crossed out. And what are we left with? We're left with 7 times 8 is 56. Now, don't forget, if you multiply or divide by a negative, you must change the sign. All right, so we got to change the sign because we multiplied or divided by a negative, and we end up with B. Okay? All right. If I were to check this, we're saying B must be less than or equal to 56. Something that's less than 56 is negative 8. Negative 8 is less than 56, right? So if I plug a negative 8 in here, okay, negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1, and 1 is greater than or equal to negative 7. So it checks out and I'm good. So let's go ahead and graph this sucker. So you ready? We need to make sure we read from the variable. Okay, so when we read from the variable, okay, let's get our graph ready. Tick, 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 boom. Okay, write your target number, which is 56. One bigger is 57. One smaller is 55. Okay, look and see the cement. We are cemented. Okay, read from the variable. B is less than, so we're going to the left. And there we go. Okay, all right, guess what? We're getting close here. Here's the last question on the practice test, essentially. It says the Robotics Club is ordering new t-shirts. Notice that we're going to be writing an inequality. And wants to spend at most, so there's my key word, they want to spend at most 150. What's at most mean? Well, do you want to spend more than 150? No, at most 150. So I want less than. Next question, are you allowed to spend 150? Yeah, it says at most 150. 150 is fine, so less than or equal to 150. So there's the answer on the right side. Okay, the t-shirt company charges $15 per shirt. What does per mean? Multiply, plus a shipping cost of $7. Okay, and shipping is just a one-time fee. How many shirts can they purchase if they spend at most 150? Okay, so how many shirts? That means I don't know shirts. Could be an S, it could be an X, whatever. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and get the inequality part first. So we have less than or equal to 150. That's my max amount of price. Okay. What's the expression on the left side? Well, we have $15 per shirt. Per means multiply, so I have an S. Okay. If I don't want to use an S because it could look like a 5, we could just use an X for shirt. Okay. Plus a shipping cost of $7. Okay. All that needs to be less than or equal to 150. So let's go ahead and separate our workspace and solve this out. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and subtract both sides by 7. Cross that out. What do we end up with? We end up with 15x equals 150 minus 7. And we end up with 143. And then let's isolate the variable. So divide both sides by 15. Cross that out, and we're left with x equals whatever this is. Okay, so 143 divided by 15, and we get 9.53 repeating. So 9.53, let's just write what it says with the 3 repeating. Okay, and this says solve the inequality to find out how many shirts the team can purchase. So let's take a look. Notice one mistake I made. This is an inequality, and look what I started to do. So common mistake is, oops, don't turn this into an equation. It's not. It's an inequality. Okay? All right, so we have less than or equal to, less than or equal to. Okay? All right, now, also check, did I multiply or divide by a negative anywhere? No, I subtracted. That's not multiplying or dividing. I divided by 15. Nope, we're good. Okay. All right, so how many shirts can they spend if they want to spend at most 150? So we're going to use at most, okay, and say they can spend, and we're going to use that language, at most. And then our answer, okay, so now think about this. I can't actually buy 9.5 shirts. So look at what my x equals. My shirts have to be less than or equal to. Okay, so I'm going to choose the lesser amount and say at most 9 shirts. Okay, because I can't do more than 9. That won't work. I'll spend more money. Okay, all right, so there you go. All right, now the bottom part are just some extra equation problems to practice, okay? So you don't have to do those, but if you do want some extra practice, those are there for you. I will go ahead and just do them real quick so you have them as an example, okay? So separating our workspace for all of these problems, okay? And I'll move pretty quickly through all of these. Okay. That one's a short one, huh? All right, let's go ahead through. So we're doing solving for a variable. So for all of these, we're doing SADMERG. Okay, so let's go ahead and do opposite order of operations, and here we go. So minus 23, minus 23, cross that out, rewrite, and we have 9y equals whatever 67 minus 23 is, and we have 44, okay? And then we end up with dividing by 9 on both sides. That gets crossed out, and you get y equals 44 divided by 9. And you have 4.8 repeating, or you can just leave it at 44/9. Okay, so that's an option for you also, is you could just leave it at that. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and take a look, or we can write it like this. Okay, let's go ahead and do this next one. Okay, so we have 15v minus a negative 12. We can go ahead and distribute that negative real quick. And if we did, it would just say plus 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and just do a rewrite of this to uncomplicate things. So it's sort of just to try to like trick you. And then we can go ahead and start solving for v. So we're looking for opposite order of operations first. So we have 15v equals 34 minus 12. is 22. Let's go ahead and divide both sides by 15. And we end up with v equals 1.46 with the 6 repeating, or again, you can just leave it at 22/15. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and check the next one out. Oh, we got some distributing to do anytime we see this with variables. Okay, so we have 9x minus 15 equals 20. Let's go ahead and opposite order of operations. It says take care of this subtraction first. And we're left with 9x equals 20 plus 15 is 35 divided by 9 to isolate the variable. And you're left with x equals 35/9. Okay. All right. Let's go and do your next one here. Same thing, distributing first, just getting some practice with this. We have negative 14x minus 5 times 7 is 35, but a negative times a negative is a positive 35 equals 10. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of that positive 35 by subtracting 35 to both sides. Okay, and we have 14x, but it's negative, equals 35 minus 10 is 25. Different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. All right, and then we have divided by negative 14, divided by negative 14, and we're left with x equals whatever this is. So 25 divided by 14, it's a random number, so you can just leave it at 25/14. Okay, so these are all examples where, because you have this non-terminating decimal, it's okay to just leave it as the fraction. Okay, all right, negative r equals negative 46. Remember, opposite of r is 46, so that just means r equals negative 46. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and do your next one. Okay, we have to distribute and combine like terms on this one. So let's go ahead and distribute the negative. So we end up with negative r minus 2 plus r equals 46. We're going to go ahead and combine the like terms. Okay, oh, and take a look at this. Okay, we have negative r plus r. So this is one of those tricky ones we talked about where the r disappears. Okay, so all we have is we end up with negative 2 equals 46. Okay, and this is one of those situations where you have no solution. So just a random one to remember that. Okay, these ones won't be on the test. They're just some extra practice if you wanted. Okay, all right, so that's your practice test. Get really good at all those. I labeled all the modules. So if there was an area you ran into problems with, then head back to that module and go to some of the homeworks and erase some questions and try some of those again. Okay, all right, let me know if you have any questions, and good luck.